On this Friday morning, Sam Slaton is on the line with us once more. We talk with Sam again. He is the CEO of the Sante Center for Healing, one of the longest-running premier addiction treatment centers in America. And it's good to have you back on the air with us, Sam. Good morning to you.
Thank you for having me back.
Conversation brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Now, this study doesn't have a direct effect on what we're about to talk about, but our poll this week of our listeners says this: Indiana Borough Council is exploring the possibility of changing the borough's marijuana policy. What are your thoughts on recreational or non-medical use of marijuana? It should be completely legal throughout Pennsylvania. That's got 39% of the vote. It should remain illegal. That's 46% of the vote. It should be legal with very strict limitations. That's 14% of the vote. It's almost 50-50 down the middle, Sam. But there are more considerations about marijuana and really about our alcohol use as well than just whether we're using it for recreational purposes. And that's if we get behind the wheel of a car and we do something that could cause harm to someone else. And this other new study that comes out says that, yeah, that's happening more and more frequently. That's a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely so. And the studies that have come out aren't even truly up to date with 2020, 2021 data. So these numbers are staggering already in these studies, and showing that there is a larger amount of people who are not only just driving under the influence of alcohol, but are now combining that with the use of marijuana. And a lot of people are your daily marijuana users who may be going out for recreational use of alcohol. And so we're just seeing a lot more increase in the severity of traffic accidents and fatalities with people who are using alcohol and marijuana and getting behind the wheel.
Well, that particular study you referred to said more than 40% of drivers have driven under the influence recently. And as you said, without including 20 and 21 numbers, it's kind of dangerous to do that in this day and age because the numbers have, we understand, gone up of the number of people who are drinking. So you would assume that would translate to the people who are drinking and driving as well. So that becomes even scarier.
Yes, and I do think as you see the prevalence of states adopting either medical marijuana or full legalization of marijuana use, that these numbers of individuals driving under the influence is just going to increase. And one of the things that, it's not talked about in this study, but also we look at the use of cell phones while driving and looking at how that mirrors the level of impairment of driving under the influence. So you really have a lot of compounding factors where people are being distracted from being behind the wheel, whether it's substance-induced or whether it's on your phone.
Well, so many people have this idea that everybody else might be affected, but I'm invulnerable, I'm Superman, I can get behind the wheel, I can do whatever I want, and it won't affect my driving ability. The science says that's not true, doesn't it?
That is correct. You really look at the use of any substance and getting behind the wheel, you're slowing down your reaction times. Specifically, alcohol and marijuana are both depressants. So where we're driving, we have to be highly alert, watching out for rapid changes in traffic or pedestrians. These are both substances that just weaken your ability to have those acute reflexes.
And talk, if you would, a little bit about cognition and the idea of making sound judgment, wise decisions.
Yeah, again, when anyone uses a substance, you're truly slowing down, your cognitive ability to process as crisply and as quickly as one might need to be. And it's almost, like you said, getting into that egocentric worldview of, I'm okay, I can get behind the wheel, I'm fine, and not having, your perception to be accurate, to be able to judge the environmental changes. It's scary enough sometimes just driving, in general, and then you throw in that compounding factor of being under the influence of marijuana, alcohol, and or both. And I think a lot of times, especially with individuals who are daily users of cannabis, that you're going to have a level of impairment that might be there, continually behind the wheel, and that's really hard to judge. But it is going to slow down your reaction times.
In terms of law enforcement, our technological capabilities aren't as good for detecting marijuana usage or impairment as opposed to alcohol usage and impairment. And until it catches up, it will continue to be even more of a problem if you're not aware of what's going on there. And as different forms of marijuana come into play, marijuana baked into the brownies or whatever it happens to be, the law enforcement is going to really have a difficult time detecting it in some cases, aren't they?
And the technology is behind from your standard alcohol breathalyzer test, but your field sobriety tests are there. There are tests out there to test your THC level, and there are some states out there that already have a certain THC level that they're requiring you to be under if you're going to be driving. So I think the difficulty is having that combined rate. Is the standard legal limit for alcohol in most states is 0.08, and so are they looking at, well, if I have this level of impairment with alcohol, or this blood alcohol level with alcohol combined with this level of THC in my system, is that driving under the influence? And I think that's probably where we're going to get to, is finding something empirical and measurable that law enforcement and legislators can act on.
Meanwhile, we understand that people who are under the influence of alcohol or marijuana or whatever the substance might be, the majority of them still are going to be able to get from here to there without coming across a police officer unless they're severely impaired. And so, Sam, the question becomes, well, what do we do about it? Is there a way that we can get those folks from getting behind the wheel of a car or taking the car away from them?
Yeah, I think it starts with education, and unfortunately, we have a worldview a lot of times that's just very myopic and centered on ourselves. So education is probably the number one thing that I would say we have to start with. And driving under the influence, the penalties for that, if they're not severe enough to be a deterrent, then maybe that's something that we have to look at. But I also think just people in general that are driving, if you're noticing any erratic patterns or someone having difficulty in driving and not following the common laws, then to be able to call in and report that. And the goal is to, number one, help people not make that decision to get behind the wheel after using, but also know that there are outlets that they can use, such as a rideshare program.
Mm-hmm. You have been involved in treatment addiction centers for quite some time. You know the stuff. You know what's going on within the business. Is it true, Sam, that folks really need to have some sort of a breakthrough moment before they ever come through your doors at an addiction center? There has to be something that compels them to go in, to make a major change in their life, such as that?
Yeah, definitely having a willingness to change is a determining factor to someone actually, having a long-lasting recovery. But a lot of people do have that bottoming out moment, or that point of leverage that's against them that kind of helps move them along to make that decision to come on into treatment. So not everyone has a severe bottoming out moment, but it's something significant enough for them to actually want to make that change.
And if they're in the position of having to visit a facility such as yours, and it's court-compelled or ordered that they do it rather than coming in of their own volition, I would assume then that it is a far more difficult thing to get them to take it seriously or to really commit themselves to it.
Yeah, definitely studies are going to show that, again, if someone's willing to get help and has the desire to make those changes, then probability says that they're going to have a lot lower rate of recidivism in regards to relapse with substance, but also have a greater probability of that lasting recovery. Someone coming in against their will and not truly having a desire for change, it's going to be a struggle.
He's Sam Slaton. He is the CEO of the Sante Center for Healing. Sam, where will we learn more about your organization?
You can find us on the web at santecenter.com, or you can call us at 800-258-4250.
Appreciate your time this morning. I really do.
Thank you. I appreciate being back on the show, and wish you all well going into the weekend.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, 101.1 FM and AM 1160. AM 1160.